Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dentistry Unmasked. My name is David Rice, and here, as always, with
Hey everybody, Pam Maragliano-Muniz, and today is going to be epic. I'm so excited for our guest this week. How do you feel about this, David?
it's a rare occasion when we really truly get to spend time with an icon in dentistry. And today's
No,
guest is
that.
is dentistry's icon in so many ways. So we're going to State of the Union this thing.
Oh yeah. So Dr. Gordon Christensen, just I can't give you more of a warm welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure and honor, and I congratulate you for having a podcast. It's
Thank
needed discussion with your clients.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. We're a year old at this point, and we love having conversations that you don't necessarily have every day. We can read
Right.
your articles, which I do all the time, and, or listen to you speak, and you get, kind of what's going on. But we want to like roll up our sleeves and really chat with you about what you see is happening right now in dentistry and where do you think dentistry is going. So let's start with what's kind of happening. That's kind of a topic that we really should be thinking about right now.
The presidential election is going to make a calm, I think. And it's been political questions over and over and over and over again. Dentists worried about spending, worried about buying a lot of technology at tens and twenties and 30 thousands of dollars. So they've not been as aggressive in their continuing education. You've seen continuing education courses. Well, the ADA is a good example. It'll only be a couple more ADA meetings. They have kind of, well, I would have done it differently had I've been on almost every ADA committee over the years, and it moves slow. It's political, let's face it. So we're seeing a lot of changes. I'm hopeful, and I think I'm right that it will turn around. That's about where we are as we get political stability.
That's a good thing. And that's, I think, sometimes it's easy for us to think politics separate from dentistry, but the trickle
No,
down, the trickle down, as you mentioned, is like there's a manufacturing side, there's a technology side, there's an education side. So you see impact on all levels. You get this behind the curtain view of all things dentistry.
I did a survey quite a few years ago. It's been 1991. Howie Foran and I and Rich Maddow and a few others got our databases together, and it was tens of thousands of dentists. And we tried to poll what were the grievances at that time. And as you might expect, the major grievance was third-party payment, followed by a myriad of other things. Too many dentists, too many dental schools, high tuition, blah, blah, blah. I had about 20 things. I asked for a private sitting with the American Dental Association Board of Trustees, which I had. So I had all the Board of Trustees sitting in that building in Chicago, which has now been sold, unfortunately. And we discussed these things. They all agreed. But having been in those political situations my entire career, I was an academic the first 15 years of my career, so I had the time, energy, and it didn't cost me money to spend a week with the ADA. So I knew how slow it would move, and I was right. Not hardly anything have happened since 1991. They're still there. The problems are still there.
That
Third
is a
party
very true
still
story.
remains one. Yeah. They're telling you what to do, when to do, how much to charge, if to charge, and so forth. And that is 98% of dentists. I asked Tom Lamoli Jr. a while ago. I've had him speak for us here a few times. I asked him, and he's kind of the guru of third-party payment. I said, Tom, what percent of dentists take no third-party payment? They don't bother with it at all. It's all up to the dentist and the patient. 2%. 2%. So we got 98% that are causing a little challenge there.
So that's interesting. So you saw that the ADA was doing things kind of slowly. You met with them and you tried to have a conversation with them about maybe tweaking some things. But you've taken a lot of matters into your own hands and you've been educating us with your expertise. What would you say we should be doing differently? Or are there some things we are doing that's almost leading to our own demise or increase of challenges?
There have been, well, there have been uprisings, not just politically in the civilization at large, but within the dental profession. There are several small groups starting now to promote the existence of private practice. Unfortunately, one of them in Florida, uh, it was almost ready to blossom, and darn if the guy didn't die who was running it. But there are some grassroots uprisings that want to get involved politically and help overcome the problems. It isn't the people who are there that are not making the movement. It's the problem of having committees run everything, and you know that without me saying anything else. I think we must encourage the younger dentists to become involved with the ADA committees, AGD committees, and so forth. Right now, there are only not quite 50% of American general dentists belong to the ADA. There are parents. You may want to kill them occasionally, but they are our parents. You can't kill your parents. There are lobbyists. There are people who are trying to make movement without some revolution. So I think it's a matter of getting the younger dentists involved politically, then dentistry.
That's a great point. And I know there are some other factions out there who, I can say it, I feel like they're self-serving and they kind of bash organized dentistry and they beat everything up. And to your point, sure, our parents have challenges, our kids have challenges, but we're family and we've got to figure this thing out together if we're going to survive as a profession.
You are so right, David. I've done a lot of political things in my church, as an example, and it has to be tactful. It has to be such that both parties have a gain, which I think it would if we could have some definitive meetings with the major third-party payment companies. I don't think we would have much of a problem having them see our problem and us seeing their problem. Uh, it needs some communication, equitable and peaceful, not rebellion.
Do you
So
see this ever becoming something that we can finally, mutually agree upon? Because I feel like right now, dentistry's answer to for reimbursements from third-party payers is cheaper materials or trying to reduce our overhead in some ways that might not be resulting in the best dentistry.
there's no question in my mind, Pam. All of us have a budget, and that budget is finite. And therefore, to try to do things beyond the budget, I am a PhD psychologist as well, does not work. If we get more than 10% of our activity in an indefinite arena, it's likely we're going to fail. So it's going to be a slow evolution, getting back to that group of people who want a private dentist. That's one of the challenges we're seeing in corporate right now. The young kids get in there, and who is the patient seeing? 60% of the people in corporate are dentists up to 5 years out of school. So does the patient want to see that kind of person every time? There's another man or woman they're going to see. There's no interaction previously, so there's nervousness there. There are quite a few middle-aged dentists going into corporate right now too, because they don't want malpractice problems. They don't want to have to hire and fire and all the things you both know very well. So it's going to be a slow evolution. I think it's doable, though. I really do.
I do too. So Pam, we were chatting offline a little bit that, you recently returned from ACP and there were some conversations that were happening there, to this trickle down from a material science standpoint. So what did you hear? What are you seeing? What things do you make you nervous?
It was interesting. So just got back from ACP in Marco Island, Florida. It was a wonderful conference. Weather was beautiful, all the things. Got to see my friends. You know how those are. But they're pretty much not every lecture, but many lectures were about the digital workflow and kind of going from zero to full mouth rehab in very few appointments and from planning to execution of the prosthesis and a lot of zirconia. And I feel like I get it. I see it. Some of it is becoming more beautiful. But my biggest issue is, for me personally, is I feel like I'm not old enough yet. I feel like I could slap zirconia on everything if I wasn't going to have to cut it off later. But knowing that I'm going to have to redo some of my work while I'm here in this office, I don't want to have to do that. And so there's this push of bonding zirconia and full mouth rehabs with zirconia. And I feel like I don't know. I feel like, okay, fine. It's great that day at delivery, but what happens later?
You're talking to somebody who is married to the zirconia queen of the earth, Dr. Rella Christensen, and I have to live with it practically daily. We have evaluations going clear back 27 years as zirconia base came on, and we have research going on 10, 11, 12 years on 3Y zirconia, obviously the original form. And it's pretty interesting. There's an underlying factor that, by the way, I'm one of the founding members of the HP, and I don't get the chance to attend often because I'm speaking somewhere else. I do at least 80 to 100 courses a year. But what is underlying? The average American general dentist does 1 crown per clinical day. Seldom do they do a 3-unit bridge. Almost never do they do an all on 4 or 10 or whatever you want to call it. So the bottom line is we've aimed at the wrong end of the dang spectrum. We need to be how to make an impression, how to make a prep. If you were to sit here with me in our hands-on courses, we have a series of 14 of them, 2-day courses, and what's the name of our group? Practical Clinical Courses. It isn't how to do an all-on-4 when we totally failed. I just said something important. We've got a lot of money pouring into the wrong end of the dang spectrum. We should be on the other end of the spectrum. How do we prevent this freaking disease? Since it's the most common disease of mankind, I'm a prosthodontist, a surgical prosthodontist. I've been placing implants for 38 years and restoring them. And what am I finding? We thought it was God's gift to the profession. But now with 45% getting periimplantitis by 9.5 years, that's the DEC study. And it's frightening to think that we're ripping teeth out just to put implants in that are going to fail. A 3-unit bridge will go 20 years. That's the international data. Implants are now looking like 10 years before they start to go downhill heavily. So I think we've got the wrong orientation. Although I'm a prosthodontist and do all kinds of prosthodontic things, I've done 40,000 crowns personally over my career so far. So I've got a little experience there, but I'm not seeing them come out of most of the schools capable of even doing a simple prep, let alone the stuff I'm sure you saw at ACP. So I'd like to direct some of our educational orientation toward not just research. Research supports practice. Right now, we've got practice supporting research. Ass backwards, if you will. We need to look very serious at who we are, what we are. The average American dentist has never done an implant. It's not even 10%. Yet it sounds like everybody's doing implants. Wrong. It sounds like everybody's doing complex dentistry. Definitely wrong. So you can see the problem I have in my mind let's get back to our roots. Dr. Ella, my wife, has identified already 150 organisms responsible for dental caries. You, I, both learned about 4 or 5. We've forgotten who we are. We're boring holes in teeth and putting a cork in the hole. It leaks, does not have static activity. The scanners of today are half evolved. They're still 100 microns open. I could get a gold crown down to 5 to 10 microns. You can see where we've gone there. We've gone toward the inexpensive manufacture of our prostheses and crowns. You can make a zirconia crown for a few dollars. So nobody is going to go back and make a crown for $150. I'm talking lab fees. Politically, and I'll say it very candidly, the tail's wagging the dog. When a company gets a new product, where do they go? I'm talking fixed pros. Where do they go? They go to the labs. Who should they be going to? All of us.
Mm-hmm.
We should be going there. How do we like zirconia? Hard as a steel. It's in car transmissions. 2 steel blocks banging together. I just had a course over the weekend, hands-on with John Suzuki and his son Kevin. 2 periodontists, 1 prosthodontist. And we agreed from the research internationally, the major problem with the implant failure is occlusion. They don't even know the words coming out of school now. We treat 3 diseases. We overtreat caries. We know about perio, but don't do it. In large courses I provide, from time to time I'll ask, who will do a periodontal flap? You will be astounded. Not even 3 or 4 out of a course of 300 people. So that disease is done by hygienists. Now where are we? Occlusion. I swear most of the kids coming out can hardly spell it. So again, I've been everything from an instructor to a dean. I would like to reorganize dental education completely. When they learn about a disease, they shouldn't be taking a handpiece first. They should learn about the disease first. When they see occlusion failures, they should be learning about what causes 30% of the population to have grinding and clenching bruxism. And then that relates to the treatment plan. As you can see, I have some wild ideas, but if I were 40 years old, I'd be a total lunatic running around trying to change things. Right now, I'm just trying to do 100 courses a year. Get a little
I
bit.
love that. Let me ask you this. I would love your opinion, given what you said. There's that article that came out on CBS News. Dentists are pulling healthy and treatable teeth to profit from implants, experts warn. Did you see that article?
Amen. Yes, I agree with it. I agree vehemently with it. It's one of my strongest pet peeves right now. That is all one big dollar sign. You know it. That's all it is. If I ask we have 450 evaluators spread around the world. We're in 100 countries. So what I'm saying is kind of an international statement. We're seeing among our most loyal and educated and long-term practicing evaluators, when asked, what would you have in your own mouth if you were edentulous? Candid question. Would you have implants? Yes. Would you have large or small diameter? I'm just sitting here getting another course together for Las Vegas in a couple of days. The small diameter implant is now showing almost no periimplantitis. And it's been on the market since 1997, probably because it doesn't have a jiggling head on the top of a toadstool, and it's one piece. And just diametrically opposed to what we were told years ago. And now even Straumann, the biggest implant company in the world, is producing small diameter implants and supra-bone implants. We all been putting them at bone level and squishing bug poop all around the edges. epithelial area. So I would really like to see us return to our roots. We're dentists. We prevent, that should be the first word, and treat disease. To have all the money when we've totally failed, that's all on whatever, which is my original implant courses were from Brandemark himself, Mayo, and then went to Gothenburg and did the surgery courses. He was a very, what am I going to say, open person. Well, he had to be. He left that chunk in somebody's body and he got ostracized, criticized, thrown out of his medical society, moved to Brazil to get rid of the criticism. We got to look at people like that. He stuck his neck out and he didn't know he had caused something that was a godsend. He didn't know that, and neither did they who were criticizing him. Right now, there's a European emphasis. One of our sons practices in Canada, and it's also getting into Canada, and ADA's a little sleep on it, saying don't restore initial caries. You probably heard it. What? That's like having a basal cell right there and saying, oh, don't worry about it. It won't kill you. Not today, it won't. I just had a person recently who had several basal cell, not basal cells, squamous cells on his bald head. He had 40 chemo and radiation therapies. And the dentist who saw him said, you need all your teeth out with 40 radiation. And I just could not even believe what I was hearing. Oh, we'll get rid of them, quote, damn teeth, and you'll feel a lot better.
Hmm.
The guy had his brain on 1 minute. I'm talking too much. We need to get back to the basics, who we are. We prevent and find out how to treat adequately the simple things. And we won't have so many crises at the other end of the spectrum.
I love that so much. That needs to be screamed from the rooftops on a very daily, if not hourly basis. So earlier, you mentioned, Gordon, that, young kids coming out of school today are 300 to $1 million in debt.
I've seen several at $1 million. What the heck do you do with $1 million?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's out there. So how do we convince them, let's be honest, that school gave them, let's not even use foundational knowledge, but school gave them this much knowledge and we've got all of this greatness they need to learn on the prevention side and the conservation side, as opposed to being attracted to that shiny penny that they all are chasing every day?
I appreciate you asking that, Dave, because I have some very strong ideas there. When I was one of the initiators of, well, 3 dental schools, but University of Kentucky was the first one many, many years ago in the early 60s. And we sat down as a young faculty. I was 28 as a department chairman. I didn't know zip. I had been in the Vietnam fracas. I learned more there than I did at dental school. However, I could see that when I went into that Vietnam thing, I had to take third molars out the day I got there. Did I get that in school? Are you kidding? I didn't know oral pathology. I had a little dribble of that. And so we sat down together and we thought, what did we learn in school? I'm not talking basic science now. What did we learn in school clinically that we never did? And what didn't we learn in school that we needed day one? Day one. When I went into the Vietnam thing, the old colonel was getting ready to go on a vacation. He said, Christensen, you take over the oral surgery clinic. I can't spell oral surgery. I could have killed a dozen young recruits, seriously, because I hadn't even used an elevator out of dental school. You think about it. It would be well to establish curricula, and you may not like what I'm going to say. We developed there a vertical curriculum, and you may know what I'm talking about. That means when you're injecting a person, you better do it on the day you learned all that anatomy. and the problems that might occur. Not 2 years later, which is almost every dental school now, when you relearn it completely. We developed that, and I said, and Pam, you'll be interested here. I said, we need a lab school with the dental school. Huh? This was in the eastern area of the U.S. where it was mainly heavily biologic and not particularly prosthodontically oriented. But I finally got that through, and I got a grant, federal grant for one dental assistant for every senior student. As far as I know now, no senior student has any dental assistant. So we need that, not what's the color of the teeth in Zimbabwe, which I see all kinds of ridiculous articles. We need to get well, we put a lab school in the University of Kentucky. I left, it left. I left, the assistant thing left. And it's still a very good school. But the bottom line is, again, we have to be a team. We have a perfect team in dentistry, if we really consider it a perfect team. And there's still those wanting to put mid-levels in. Where are you going to fit them? No state has succeeded yet.
No,
True
but it's
story.
so interesting. So I was a hygienist before I became a dentist and prosthodontist. So I feel like I have a different perspective on prevention than a lot of my colleagues that I don't want to say but just went to dental school without the background that I have. And right now, many dentists are struggling to find hygienists.
Yeah.
Would you think that dentists should be embracing prevention more and maybe, seeing their own patients for hygiene to maybe understand all that hygienists know and all that they can offer for a practice?
Yes, absolutely, vehemently, no reservation in saying that. I've done so many videos that would upset most dentists. One, and also articles. One article I put in the ADA Journal: Why do dentists shun periodontics? And they do. They don't. Well, if only 3 or 4 out of a group of 300 have even laid a flap, you know exactly what I'm saying. We need far more. Well, I was chairman of Operative way back in the dark ages before I'd had some graduate work. Chairman of Operative. And I thought, well, how did I learn Operative? And I've already said it. This is a handpiece, and here's how you put the burr in it. That's operative dentistry? No, that's a failure of operative dentistry. It's a failure. We need to get into the preventive, Pam. And every school should start there. During my career so far, caries and periodontal disease have had several rounds of alleged cure. Oh, we've got caries wiped. Yeah, right. The first dean at University of Utah had some ideas that got her on the road. One of them was, oh, we've got periodontal disease pretty well taken care of. In your dreams, we need to get back to that and make some ways that dentists can be like other parts of medicine where you're paid to use your brain and not just your fingers. We do. You have this disease, and here's what we know about it. If you do this, well, think about caries. It's a self-induced disease. You eat garbage and leave it on your mouth and it rots. It's just that simple. And now
It's just that simple.
It
we
really
got,
is.
we got the, and now we've got the anti-fluoridation that's all whipped up, and they want to take fluoride out of the water. And oh my, I can't even believe what I'm saying.
It's
I don't want
crazy.
to be negative. I think the future of our profession is great because it's just what I said. They're not taking care of themselves. We can try to educate them, and you get some. You get some. It's
Yeah.
like you change it in behavior. You know it as well as I. I'm a psychologist, as I said. There are nearly 20 known addictions now. How do you get a person out of an addiction? And do you know the biggest addiction I see right now is that stupid thing right there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's now classified as a severe addiction. You can't get them off it. I saw a kid just about fall in an open manhole the other day. He was going along clickety click, click, click. And that's the same way with caries. Are we going to get them to do oral hygiene? It's not hard. I still have teeth, believe it or not, at 300 years old. You can do it. And my dad was a sugar manufacturer. When I went to dental school, I had large amalgams in the back of my mouth. And I thought I should get them done while I'm here. So I was a freshman, didn't know anything. And I picked out what I thought was a really smart senior. He turned out to be the class clown, the village idiot, but he put gold crowns in the back of my mouth with zinc phosphate cement, and you know what I'm going to say, I'll bet. They're still there. That is 67 years later. Are we going to have that with the current generation? You're just kidding to even think about it. The margins are wide open. The cements are cariogenic. The resin cements we're using today shrink. Well, composite resin shrinks 2%. Cements are just diluted composite resin. They're shrinking 4 to 6%. So now you've got a wide open margin with a shrinking cork in it, with the bugs just crawling those nice warm crevices all around. We're waiting for a dilemma in 20 years. Those margins will be rotten. I'm already seeing it in our studies. When these crowns are falling off, and every dentist had them fall off, it's no joke, you know it as well as I do. When they come off, we're seeing all inside of the crown, about halfway up, is stain. In other words, they're leaking. Back in the olden days of glass ionomer and even zinc phosphate, there was no stain. They were rigid cements. They didn't bounce off. Let me give your listeners a key. If you take a pen like that, I can bend that pen a half inch. That's the cement some of the companies are saying to put under a piece of brick. It's like putting that pen underneath this hard phone and expecting it not to bounce off with the first thing you hit. That's why the crowns are coming out. In fact, I'm emphasizing returning to not zinc phosphate, but returning to glass ionomer, as long as they will use a glutaraldehyde to pucker up the dental canals. They will have no sensitivity. And those crowns, I did hundreds of rehabs during the 70s and 80s, and I'm taking some of them off right now. I'm still practicing. As I take those off that have been in 30, 40 years, I don't see caries at all under glass ionomer, such as Fuji 1, such as Ketac Sim. We're already seeing it right now under these zirconia crowns with wide open margins and cariogenic cement. The cement itself is not cariogenic. It's the fact that they don't fit.
I'll tell you, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, but the dentistry that we redo in our practice all day, every day, isn't the dentistry that was done 25, 35 years ago. It's, you know, the gal or guy down the street from the last 4 to 6 years. And it's a shame because that, to your point, you know, you mentioned we have great teams. We have the ability, we've got great science. We actually have the background. So Gordon, Pam, I think we just have to do maybe that mirror test thing when we wake up in the morning and before we rest our head on the pillows at night. It's
not about money, is it? That's not what we went into. A service profession. If I want to make money, I go sell cocaine and marijuana, and I'd be a billionaire in 15 minutes. But we went into a service profession. We're kind of like a minister. We should be trying to convert people to what we know, not to how, oh, I have the $1 billion practice. Well, big whoopee. What are you going to do with that? I see things I can't even believe.
Yeah. That's a brilliant way to share it, Pam.
Wow. So no, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we should think about what we've seen and even what we see. You know, I was just at the veterinarian last night, and it was interesting that I had this young vet, and I was asking her questions, and I was like, well, what do you think's going to happen? Like, what do you expect? And it was obvious she had no experience. And so she just kept saying, well, I don't know. I don't know. And I feel like there's so much to be gleaned from professionals that have more experience and have just been out there and they've seen more. And, keep asking for gold. I feel like you were talking about the dog wagging the tail, no, tail wagging the dog. And if we're not asking for gold, if we're not asking for the craftsmanship from a lab, then we're going to get a milling machine. Like that's what we're going to, I mean, that's what's going to happen. And I feel like we should be seeking out those lab techs that can provide us restorations that can last 20, 30 years because they can and they should.
Definitely should. Well, I'm kind of an animal nut myself. I have horses, dogs, cats, 14 great-grandchildren and 8 grandchildren, and a little ranch. I moved here for that purpose because I lived in Los Angeles, Seattle, Denver, a lot of big cities. And I thought, I don't need that anymore. And it has been wonderful to be able to concentrate. I speak to vets fairly often. I have great empathy for them. They have to know a lot more than we do.
They do.
They know more about perio than we do. I do know that. Little dogs lose their anterior teeth very fast. And they've got some ideas about why. And I just had one of my favorite, I raised German Shepherds, and I had one of my favorite dogs die just a while ago. And I was shook up for about a week, They're one of the few creatures who's always happy. Yeah.
That is very true.
How do
Always awakes when we come home.
how do I feel about the future? I've been pretty negative talking to you. I'm not really that negative. The young kids I'm seeing are far smarter than my generation. They're inquisitive. I've written whole papers on this. What is the younger group? What characteristics do you have? They want to work together. They want to be together. They want to be conjoined in their decisions. They're inquisitive. They don't have a good work ethic. That's the only negative thing I'm seeing. The work ethic is vacation, and maybe I'll work. So we got that little problem. But in the meantime, as far as their mental and handsy characteristics, and in my hands-on courses now, what I'm seeing, Pam, you'll like this, the women are outdoing the men. I think the men are too busy watching football games and maybe pornography and all the rest of the stuff men do. But I think the women, because most of them have kids, are trying to split their time to the point where when they're in dentistry, they're doing dentistry. I'm really seeing it. I'm seeing some of these young 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds who, once they're told what to do, I have them, let's take a typical Crown Bridge course. They'll come in right out of their practices, and I'll say, cut a crown prep. And I'm going to show it on closed circuit TV. We will not identify you. You have a number. And we'll look at them, and I'll let them, I teach what's a Socratic method. What do you see wrong with this crown? It's a teepee. What do you see wrong with this crown? It's got undercuts on it. We'd look at maybe, my course is hands-on, or 20 or 30 people. We'll look at a bunch of them, and now they've got their ideas out. Not my ideas, their ideas. Okay, now we'll give them a little, even a half hour. Now go cut a prep. They can do it. They've just never been taught how to do it. Go cut a crown prep. Yeah, right. You'll see a piece of junk. Give them just a little instruction. 20 degrees or less of parallelism. 4 millimeters with a gingival line to the occlusal table, minimum. How hard is that? They've got it. They can do it. I think they'll finally get the message that we've talked about. We've got to get back to our core roots. With 1 crown a clinical day, 250 a year among general dentists, it's not this massive. I've done a lot of rehabilitation, and that's failure dentistry. Literally, you failed. Why have we got our time spent harping on how to make money? If we could learn how to prevent it, well, here's an example. We have what we call manufacturer visitors, and we do that very often. We get 7 half-hour programs in an afternoon. They're either virtual or live. A lot of them want to come here and see our research group. And one of the guys just recently, if I have 7 in an afternoon, maybe 2 of them are viable products. 4 out of 5 of the product we evaluate don't meet their advertising claim. I'll repeat that. 4 out of 5 do not meet their advertising claim. So here comes a guy, a general dentist, who spent 20 years getting to this point. He has developed an ablation of tooth buds. And one of my backgrounds is a master's in embryology, so I know tooth buds well. They're round. They're not mineralized for a long time. In fact, mineralization starts on a central incisor about age 6. So the tooth bud's just sitting in there resting for somebody with a cone beam and a tiny drill and an ablating. This is a microwave. And you probably heard about this. There's a tiny, tiny hole, tiny drill made right to the center of that round tooth bud. There it is, the center. That goes down, and in a few seconds, that tooth bud is ablated, and there will be no 3rd molar. Well, I said, well, isn't that going to destroy oral surgery? Oh, no. The guy, what's it going to do? They'll charge to ablate the 4 3rd molars. Now, there's a guy that turned his brain on. It took him 20 years to get there, but with cone beam, it's not hard at all. You can identify exactly where the center of that tooth bud is. Kill it, bone grows in, looks totally normal. That's an example. We have to turn our head at not try to make titanium, which in my opinion is a flawed element anyway. It should be. We're now testing diamond implants. What's a diamond implant? Man-made diamonds. They're milled, and it's hard as heck to mill them. But the man-made diamonds are carbon. What's your body? Carbon. In the initial research, is there a problem? No, because the body thinks it's the body. Right now, it thinks it's a foreign body. You know that. That's where the research ought to be, not how to make this and that and the other better with titanium. Get your butt going on all the elements and all the oxides in monkeys, pigs, miniature swine. I've done quite a bit of work with miniature swine. Their bodies are much like human in all their physiology. It'd be so easy to stick several different alternatives in there rather than saying, oh, we got to do this surface on titanium. Yeah, forget it. You know.
I love it. You're right. We've got talented young people. We've got
Yeah.
creative geniuses who've been in dentistry for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We just have to take a step back and look at things from a different perspective and use the noodle a higher power gave us all.
You just said it, David. Albert Einstein, I guess we would consider him one of the smartest guys that's ever lived. He said the only true education, I'm paraphrasing, is experience. I would certainly agree with that. I did a video many years ago, Christensen's most frequent failures and how to avoid them. I had about 20 to win that video. I did another one recently. I had 120. I think Einstein was right. We have to have experience to know what the heck we're doing.
100%. Energy meets experience, and here we are. Pam, I don't know how the heck time flies by so quickly, but we should do this again sometime. I learned a ton. Oh my
Good. I did
goodness.
too. I need a diamond implant. Like I need one.
Well, I have one implant in my mouth. Second molar. I split it down the crotch during COVID. Well, I was stressed. I have 40 full-time employees I'm paying, and I didn't want to fire any of them, and we didn't. So I had a minor TMD. I treated it myself and got over it. But the bottom line, the bottom line is we need to get on to the right end of the spectrum. That's where we need to go, in my strong opinion.
I couldn't agree more. And I can't thank you enough for your time, your candor, and also reminding dentists that, hey, you guys can take a hands-on course with Dr. Gordon Christensen. Like, let me tell you right now, it doesn't get any better than that. So, and I think getting back to basics and preserving tooth structure and prioritizing health is really where dentistry is going, because I think that's also what patients want for themselves. So with that, I can't thank you enough for your time. You have an open invite. We definitely would love to have you back. And I look forward to reading your next article. And I'm just so grateful for all you do for dental economics.
You're the editor. Here is email, pccdental.com. And
Perfect.
you can get anything you want on it. Okay. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. And for everybody,
guys.
for Dentistry Unmasked, we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at Ignite DDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.